And meteorologist Katie McGraw is tracking this hurricane as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where you first see the couple videos coming out, you might be thinking it's not that bad. But then as you start to get more videos, just powerful hurricane at 145-mile-per-hour winds. And one of these strongest, the strongest when we're talking about pressure. So that when we're looking at low pressure, we talk about high pressure, low pressure. The lower that number is in millibars, that's a really intense storm. So Melissa had at landfall 892 millibars for its pressure. That was tied with the Labor Day hurricane back in 1935. You can see that there's a couple, for example, the 6th and the 10th, both named Cuba. They were 6 years apart. This is when we started to name hurricanes so you could separate them. But this just puts it into perspective that it is one of the strongest when it comes to winds and tied for the strongest when it came to pressure. Even as it makes a second landfall in Cuba, late tonight, early tomorrow, still likely a Category 4 storm. It passes just south of the Bahamas near Turks and Caicos, still a Category 3 hurricane. So this thing is going to pack a punch for the next 24 to 48 hours before it finally kicks off and heads up into the North Atlantic. I mean, frankly, even by the end of the week, it's still a Category 1 storm. Thankfully, no impacts at home. It is very quiet, beautiful day, truthfully. Lots of sunshine, temperature. It's going to be a soaking day, truth be told. It's going to rain on and off basically the entire day, and there'll be pockets of some heavier rain as well. And it's all thanks to this low that's out to the west here. You can see it's diving to the south, picking up some of that tropical moisture, and then it's going to kick up to the north and east and head toward us. So looking at futurecast, the rest of today into tonight, very quiet. I have very few pause points here. We're basically fast forwarding to about 24, 28 hours. We've got mostly cloudy conditions here. Here we're sitting at 6:30 p.m. Showers starting to move into our southern communities, pulling up to the north. Overnight into Thursday morning, pockets of heavier rain. Does look like the heaviest rain will occur Thursday morning with a little bit of a tapering trend once we get into Thursday, the later part of the day, like Thursday evening and into Friday. Now, Friday, of course, is Halloween. It is not going to be near scary. We do have small craft advisories in effect because we could see waves clearly 2 to 5 feet, maybe even a little bit higher as we get into Thursday and Friday. Now, we have beautiful conditions. Fall foliage hitting a peak here for the most part. It's a weird year with the fall foliage. The drought certainly had an impact. It was a wet spring, then we had the drought. So some of us are still seeing quite a bit of green, and then other trees are looking beautiful. In the meantime, we're tracking rain. We have these low pressures that are out to the west of us in the plains. They're going to be headed toward us, increasing our rain chances. We've got about 24 hours until rain starts to come back into the forecast. I'll show you this a little bit closer to home and also talk about Halloween, of course, coming up. Remember as a little kid going through it, anything that was rolled up I wasn't allowed to have, but now I think it's just looking at the labels, making sure it's
I mean, because they look exactly like something that could be
that's why a lot of people hand out like pencils now and like toys.
Yeah, people do that too, just for allergy purposes too, and to try to cut down on the amount of candy. But good luck with that. Yeah, the pencils are usually filtered out quite quickly.
Chucked to the back of the room.
Yeah. And for trick-or-treating this year, we might have to dodge a couple of light showers to have a better chance to see some light, lingering lake effect showers. Temperatures today, middle and upper 50s. Look at that sunset. Beautiful conditions. Middle and upper 50s for everybody right now. It'll be another chilly night. Temperatures falling into the mid and low 30s, but we have these breezy winds, which will make it feel colder. We'll have a wind chill, but will prevent a lot of frost development. And we're going to have breezy winds for the next few days, truth be told. You notice here that we'll have some variation here, gusts over 20 miles per hour in the next 12 hours, but we'll actually start to increase those winds once we get into your Thursday and into Friday as well. So it'll be pretty blustery for Halloween too. Speaking of strong winds, nothing compared to Melissa, which made landfall in Jamaica earlier today at 185-mile-per-hour winds. Strongest ever was 190-mile-per-hour winds. Now, Alan, when it actually made landfall, though, did not still have that strong of winds. So, I mean, this was a very powerful hurricane that touched down or made landfall, I should say, in Jamaica earlier today. And you can see that that eye kind of fell apart once it made landfall, and it has weakened, but it is still a major hurricane. 145-mile-per-hour winds moving to the north-northeast at 8 miles per hour. It's expected to make a second landfall in Cuba late tonight, early tomorrow, and then continues toward the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, still a major hurricane at a category 3. All the way until the end of the week, it's still a hurricane. This is just a monster storm. Thankfully, staying away from the United States, but this will definitely be, it's already a historic storm. And we'll learn more about what it brought to Jamaica and portions of the Caribbean in the days to come. In the meantime, we're looking at a different low pressure. When we talk about low pressure, that's going to mean stormy weather. And so we are bringing in a pretty strong low to northeast Ohio. We still have more than 24 hours of dry time. By tomorrow evening, we start to bring in that rain, and you notice it's basically a shield of showers. You're going to have widespread rain, some of it heavy at times. Thursday, truthfully, just looks soaked. Once we get into Halloween, as I mentioned, we'll start to see some of that rain diminishing, but it will still be very blustery, making it not fast. When we think about storms that move through our neck of the woods, for example, usually they're moving anywhere 30 miles per hour on the slow side, 40 sometimes. This is still only less than 10. Damage does weaken the storm, but it's still packing huge winds, 145-mile-per-hour winds. Pressure has increased at a 921. When it made landfall, it was at 892, tying a record with the Labor Day hurricane back in 1935. That was before we gave them names. You might notice here on this list, Cuba's on there twice. They were 6 years apart, and this is when we started then to name hurricanes so you can distinguish them, and then they get retired when they're bad enough. So all of these storms here, just in the last few years, you had Dorian. Irma wasn't too long ago either. That had 914. But this, when you're talking about the pressure of the storm, tied for the strongest. And it is likely to continue with its very strong winds all the way until tonight when it makes a second landfall in Cuba, then impacting Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas. Still a hurricane by the end of the week as a category 2. Finally moving off into the North Atlantic. Not impacting the United States, but you're going to hear about it because it is going to be such a historic storm for Jamaica and the Caribbean. Back at home, we're seeing a beautiful sunset. It's breezy out there. That's kind of the biggest issue. It's going to be choppy on Lake Erie for the next several days. Winds when we have 15 to 25 knots. Right now, we have gusts in some spots over 20 miles per hour and even sustained wind speeds out of the east, about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Temperatures in the 50s. We're already starting to see the decline because the sun is, as I mentioned, setting right now. Not very warm straight through tonight. We're going to have chilly digits. Breezy winds will prevent a lot of frost development, and it'll be very quiet. But then things start to get a little bit more interesting tomorrow. So wake up time tomorrow, temperatures in the low and mid 30s, and we'll still have those breezy winds being a factor for the next several days with the highest winds by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. So we start off chilly and sunny, increasing clouds throughout the day. Rain to the south by about 4 p.m. Showers increasing then as we move through the evening. About this time tomorrow, radar is going to look a lot different because we are dry for now, but not for long. So here we go. Overnight, not much to show you on the Futurecast. It is not until tomorrow you see that increase of clouds first, then the showers start to return. Once we get into the evening tomorrow, showers are going to be likely with the heaviest rain expected in more of our eastern communities, but there's still going to be likely a ½ inch to our western communities, and on the high side, about 2 inches of rain. It is going to be a
order ahead of this, but it's like, where do you go? So many people and resources and, you know, just the location.
100%. And I've seen some TikToks of folks that live there or tourists, and they were trying to heed the warnings, and they literally couldn't get out no matter where they were trying to go. They were looking at Europe and other places in the U.S. to get out, and there just weren't any flights. So just kind of a really scary situation. And this is one. 2 Cuba storms were actually 6 years apart. This is why we started naming storms and then retiring names when they're bad enough. But this is just going to go down as a very historic storm for a variety of reasons. And Damon just mentioned, we'll probably not even have the full scope and scale for days, maybe even weeks. And it still has 145-mile-per-hour winds. So yes, it has weakened as it now pulls away from Jamaica. So the worst of the storm now out of Jamaica, but this is still packing. The amount of hurricane force winds go out 30 miles in both directions from the eye. This is also going to make a secondary landfall tonight into tomorrow in Cuba. Then it's a Category 3 storm as it heads towards the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Even as it finally clears the Caribbean by Thursday morning, it is still a hurricane all the way till the end of the week in the North Atlantic, where it is a lot colder. And it's just a very, very powerful storm. Back at home, thankfully, we are seeing very quiet conditions, but it's getting chilly. Temperatures in the 40s already, 47 for Akron, 44 for Worcester, 48 for Mansfield, 51 in Cleveland. We've had some breezy winds today. They're starting to subside a smidge here. We have current gusts about 15, 20 miles per hour. Menor, you're one of our stronger gusts at 23. We're cooling quick. Yes, we are. We are going to have clear skies, breezy winds. The breezy winds prevent really intense frost development, but it will be frigid out the door. Tomorrow morning, these are our sunrise temperatures, about low and mid 30s, even along the lakeshore, 37, 38 degrees. Breezy winds, part of the forecast for the next several days. Gusts 20, 25 tonight into tomorrow. The winds only get stronger by Thursday and into Friday. It will be quite blustery on Friday for Halloween. We'll start off with those chilly digits, some sunshine. Clouds increasing throughout the afternoon and evening. By the time we get to the late afternoon and evening, rain to our south, and they'll be pulling up to the north. Looks like it would be an arrival time in Cleveland, probably after the sun goes down, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there. And it's thanks to these low pressures that are out to the west here, diving to the south, picking up some tropical moisture, and then coming up to northeast Ohio to pay us a visit. Futurecast shows us here how we'll increase those clouds during the afternoon. Notice this latest computer model run at 8:30. It still has us dry. I think by the time we get to Wednesday night, though, early on Thursday, we become widespread. Rain will be heavy at times. You just need to plan for wet weather on Thursday. We'll have breaks, but the rain is going to be heavy, as I mentioned. We'll end up probably seeing about ½ inch for our western communities, and on the